My family locked me in the basement for 6 years. What they hid was worse than I imagined. I know this is going to sound insane. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't live it myself. But here it is. My name's not important, let's just say I'm 24 now. And until I was 18, I thought I was chronically ill, sensitive to light, and unable to leave the house without collapsing. At least, that's what my parents told me. I grew up in a quiet suburban neighborhood. To the outside world, my family looked normal. My dad owned a hardware store. My mom homeschooled me and my sister. And we had a cute little dog named Shadow. But behind closed doors, things were very different. I was kept in the basement, not like a dungeon or something out of a horror movie. No, it was comfortable, at least on the surface. There was carpet, a bed, a desk, even a TV. But the door at the top of the stairs was always locked. Always. They told me it was for my safety, that I had a condition, something rare that made me severely allergic to sunlight and outer air. I believed them. Why wouldn't I? I was just a kid. I remember asking why my sister could go outside and I couldn't. My mom would smile and say, because her blood is different. You're special. We have to protect you. That word special became a cage. When I was about 10, things started to feel off. I would hear things, voices, conversations upstairs that didn't make sense. Once I heard my name, whispered harshly in an argument, then silence. One day, I snuck up the stairs while they were out. The door was locked as usual, but I noticed something I hadn't before. The keyhole was sealed from my side, not theirs. That didn't make sense. I knocked. Nobody came. I waited. Still nothing. Then I whispered, "Hello," and someone whispered back. Except it wasn't my mom. It wasn't my dad. It wasn't my sister. It was a boy's voice. That night, I couldn't sleep. I heard him again, not from upstairs this time, but through the vent. Faint crying, then tapping, like someone was using Morse code. I didn't know Morse, but I started copying the taps back. After a few nights, we developed a system. Tap once equals yes, twice equals no, 3 equals hello, 4 equals help. We called him 3. It was our little nickname. I never saw him. I didn't know what he looked like, but I knew he wasn't supposed to be there. At 14, I started questioning things more openly. Why couldn't I go outside if I felt fine? Why did my parents always flinch when I mentioned 3? Why did my sister avoid eye contact with me all the time? That's when the punishment started. No food for a day. No light. No TV. Once, I was left in complete darkness for 3 days straight. No explanation. My mom said, "You need to stop imagining things, or we'll have to take more serious measures." I stopped asking, but I didn't stop listening. At 16, everything changed. I woke up one night to a scratching noise from behind the wall. Not the vent, the actual concrete wall. I pressed my ear to it and heard breathing. Slow, shaky. Then a whisper. "Don't trust them." The girl before you disappeared. My blood froze. Girl. Before me. The next morning, I confronted my sister. We hadn't spoken in months. She never came downstairs anymore. But I screamed through the door until she answered. "Tell me what happened to the other girl." I shouted. Silence. Then she whispered. Her name was Lena. She was my twin. "You are not sick. They're just not ready to let you go." That night, I didn't sleep. My whole body was buzzing. I wasn't sick. There was another girl. And someone was behind the wall. I decided to escape. It took months. I started working out secretly, using canned food as weights. I studied the door, the screws, the hinges. I made a tool out of a broken TV antenna. I picked a lock for weeks before finally hearing the click. My heart almost stopped. I waited until AM, when the house was silent. I crept up the stairs, opened the door, and saw my sister sitting on the floor, crying silently. She looked up. They know what? She stood up and pulled me into a hug. Ran. I bolted. I didn't make it far. Alarms, lights, sirens. My dad tackled me in the hallway. My mom screamed, and then everything went black. I woke up somewhere new, smaller, colder. No TV, no bed, just walls and a bucket. This time, the door was steel. Days blurred together. They gave me pills, said they'd help me calm down. I spit them out when they weren't looking. And then one night, a knock. Not from the door, from under the floor. Tap, 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 tap. It was 3. I cried. I couldn't believe he was still alive. He started tapping messages. This time, he used words, full sentences. I don't know how, but he figured it out. Here's what he told me over 3 nights. There were 6 of us, one by one. We vanished. The walls aren't what they seem. Your parents aren't your real parents. The girl before you, she escaped. They're trying to replace her with you. I was shaking. Not my real parents. What did that even mean? I didn't care. I had to get out. I started digging with a spoon. I know, it sounds like a movie glitch, but it was all I had.
Every night, I scraped at the floor tile,
Dug around the vent.
created a tunnel barely big enough for me to slide through. It took weeks.
Maybe months.
Time didn't exist down there.
Then I found something.
A ladder.
A metal ladder.
It led up to a hatch,
I pushed it open.
and found myself in an attic. What the hell? I had been under the house, under the attic. The next few hours are a blur. I climbed out a window, ran barefoot through the woods.
Found a highway. Flagged down a truck driver. He took me to the police. At first, they didn't believe me.
Who would?
But the more I told them, the paler they got.
They raided the house. And what? They found.
Behind the basement was another room.
Hidden.
Soundproofed. Filled with old belongings. Toys, shoes, diaries. All labeled with names I didn't recognize. Lena.
Jordan. Alex. May.
There were 6 names. And one empty box with mine on it. Turns out, my parents had adopted kids through private channels, kept them isolated, and tried to create perfect children. Ones who would never question, never leave, never disobey.
When they
Couldn't control them anymore. They'd vanish. No one knows what happened to the others. As for 3,
His real name was Mason.
they found him locked in a crawlspace, barely alive. We've kept in touch. He's doing okay now. Therapy. A new home.
A job. Sometimes we talk about writing a book together.
Other times, we don't talk at all.
Just sit in silence.
The kind of silence only people like us understand.
I'm 24 now.
I live in a small apartment. I
Have a dog.
a real one.
His name is Rusty. And every night, before I go to bed, I tap 3 times on the wall, just in case someone out there is still listening. Just in case they need to know they're not alone. But even with my freedom, something inside me never fully came back. I had friends, now co-workers, neighbors, people who thought I was just a little shy, maybe socially awkward. No one guessed the truth. How could they? Some nights, I'd
Wake up drenched in sweat, convinced I heard the lock click shut again, or feel hands grabbing me in the dark.
I'd flip on the light and check the door 5 times before I could fall back asleep.
Other nights, I'd just sit there in the kitchen, staring at nothing.
The spoon in my hand, still scratched and bent, the same one I used to dig my way out. I kept it as a reminder.
Proof that what I lived through was real. A year after the escape, I decided to visit the house. I shouldn't have.
It had been seized and sealed off, officially condemned.
But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I just wanted to see it.
To stand outside and say, "You didn't win." But the second I stepped onto that overgrown lawn, everything came rushing back. I remembered the smell, the creak of the floor, the sound of the vents, and then something new, a sound I hadn't heard before.
From the basement window, which was cracked open, now I heard tapping.
Slow, rhythmic,
Familiar. I froze.
tap, tap.
Tap, tap.
My heart nearly stopped.
I backed away, trembling. No, 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 that couldn't be.
It wasn't possible. The house was empty,
They were in jail.
and everyone else had been rescued or gone. But the tapping didn't stop.
It grew louder.
More desperate. I turned and ran. I didn't look back.
That night, I couldn't sleep. I tapped back.
Not on a wall.
On my
Kitchen counter.
just 3 light taps.
Tap, tap, tap. And this time, for the first time in over a year, I heard something. A whisper.
So faint I thought it was a dream. Don't forget about us. Now I don't know if I imagined it.
Trauma can play tricks on you.
Or maybe there's someone still trapped,
Maybe not in that house.
but somewhere else.
Another basement. Another family.
I started writing everything down. Every memory, every secret,
Every.
sound.
I shared the story online. Here. With you. Maybe you think I'm crazy. Maybe you think I made it all up.
But if you've ever heard something behind your walls, if you've ever felt like someone was watching from a vent,
If you hear tapping at night, especially in 3s,
don't ignore it. Because I didn't believe it either.
until it happened to me.